All right, you heard the disclaimer. Now, let's get to it, guys.
Good morning. This is Uncle Lou here. Welcome to the new show. Now that football season's pretty much come to an end here, we're going to try something different. It's still going to be the same format as before with the sports show. So if any of you guys want to call in anytime, argue with us, with your opinions, tell us we're right or wrong, whatever you want to do, feel free to call in. But this is going to be more of a topical show. Now, nothing's off limits, so whatever you want to talk about, feel free to give us a call. No subject is off limits, so we'll talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. But the general idea for the show, we're going to have a certain topic each week that we focus on. But again, if you want to call in and talk about something else, that's fine too. But we'll pick a topic every week. We'll talk about it. National news, international news, conspiracy theories, government corruption, conspiracies, lies, cover-ups, whatever it is you want to talk about, we'll talk about it. We're going to don't call anytime you want, but if there's a certain topic that interests you, especially a topic that you preferably know something about, and you want to be a featured guest on the show one week, and we can make the show about that specific topic for that week, get in touch with me and let me know. There's plenty of ways. You can find me on YouTube or Twitter at Crazy Uncle Lou. You can email me, crazyunclelou@gmail.com. Let me know who you are, what it is you want to talk about, and we'll go from there. So government conspiracies, cover-ups, lies. If you want to talk about Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, the Bermuda Triangle, crop circles, aliens, UFOs, doomsday scenarios. If you stubbed your toe and you think it's Obama's fault, whatever it is you want to talk about, call in and let us know. Again, nothing's off limits. I'll be on the show every week, along with Jay. Jay, anything you want to say at the beginning here?
Just it should be a fun show. Pretty much backing off what you said. Football's over, so go ahead and get a new radio show going. I think this show is going to do very well. I know everybody has different opinions on the different subjects we're going to be covering over the next few months and stuff. So definitely look forward to the show.
Yeah, it's going to be. I've been looking forward to it for a while. Before I ever started making football videos, I was making these tinfoil hat videos on YouTube about different things, and it's hard to get a lot into a 6 or 7 or even a 10-minute YouTube video, and then you end up arguing in the comment section for 2 weeks trying to type out your argument to people. So the radio show, I think, is going to be a much better way to get deeper into some of these conversations. Now, no matter how crazy or insane some of these topics might be, again, like I've said over and over already, nothing is going to be off limits. So we're not going to laugh you off the air if you call up and claim to have Bigfoot in your cellar. We'll talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. I'm going to talk about some crazy stuff too. You don't have to agree or believe everything that it is that I talk about, but if you're going to call me up and tell me I'm wrong, don't just call me up and tell me the government wouldn't do that. That's not an appropriate answer. There's nothing the government wouldn't do. So if you're going to call up and tell me something that I'm saying is wrong, then just be prepared to back it up. Now, what I wanted to talk about today, I actually had a couple of people through YouTube ask me to make some videos on this, and I figured, well, instead of making the video, I'll just save this for our first tinfoil hat show. But I've had several people get in touch with me over the last couple of weeks about different things related to the weather. And by the weather, I don't mean like the weather forecast, like is it a 50% chance of rain or snow or anything like that, but specifically weather control, weather manipulation. Is weather random? Can it be controlled? And if it can be controlled, then who is it? Who's controlling it? Who has that ability? Who would want that ability and why? Who stands to gain from some sort of weather control? And weather as a weapon. And you might be saying, well, how could you use weather as a weapon? Well, we're going to get into some of these things here, but two specific things that people asked me about: chemtrails and the United States military's HAARP program up in Alaska. We'll start with chemtrails. If you don't know what these are, you've all seen them, but you look up in the sky and you see the white haze left behind by a jet that has gone by. And I guess there's some controversy over what causes these, what they are, who's doing it. Of course, their excuse, their thing is, well, it's just fuel vapors and things like this. But there are those that believe that this is a government program designed to do a couple of different things, anything from biological warfare, spraying some sort of chemical in the air that we're all breathing in. Now, my question to people who believe that, and again, I'm not saying you're wrong, but aren't the people that are supposedly spraying this stuff in the air, aren't they breathing the same air that we're breathing? So in theory, if they're really poisoning the population, aren't they poisoning themselves? That would be my, I guess, rebuttal to that. A couple other theories out there. The pharmaceutical companies, which if you've been watching Uncle Lou videos, you know I'm not a fan at all of these big pharmaceutical companies. But another theory is that pharmaceutical companies are behind these chemtrails, that it's not necessarily poison that they're spraying, but it's some sort of chemical designed to keep people sick. And, of course, what do sick people do? They take medicine. And, of course, the use of medicine in the United States in particular, but really around the world, has skyrocketed over the last 20 years. Go over to anybody's house and they've probably got a half a dozen prescription bottles laying around. But I don't know if I'm much of a believer in this particular conspiracy. What do you know about this, Jay?
Well, I mean, the chemtrails being that there's really no specific answer, you're going to get a lot of different conspiracy theories, whether it's the pharmaceutical companies or whether they're trying to poison us through the air or whatever. My personal opinion is I think the chemtrails have a direct correlation with the HAARP program. I think I don't even think the pilots of these jets and these airplanes know what they're doing. I think it's all about the jet manufacturer. I think they put something into the jet fuel that sprays out into the atmosphere or whatever. And I think whatever it does, it's helping the HAARP program with their little climate control or whatever they're trying to do. But there's a lot of different theories. There's a lot of different articles you could go read that could probably sway your opinion one way or another. My personal opinion, it would probably have to do with the HAARP program, and it will probably have to help them in some sort of way.
Yeah, now the HAARP program, this is something that, to me, is a lot more believable, if for no other reason than the fact that it does exist. There is no debate about whether or not there is a HAARP program, whether it exists. I mean, you can find it on Google Earth.
And
it's there.
And they have admitted that the HAARP program is trying to, in some way, to change the climate. Now, they tell us they're trying to save and help the atmosphere, but they have admitted, and publicly, they have admitted that the HAARP program does in some way change the weather.
Right, and I'm going to come out. I'll just come out right now, just so there's no question in anyone's mind. I'm a 100% firm believer that the HAARP program is intended for climate and weather manipulation and control. It's a military program. They don't even deny that. It's not an EPA program. It's not run by the Environmental Protection Agency. It's run by the United States military. They started this back in the early 90s, $750 million. Now, you got to remember, 1993, that's almost 25 years ago. So $750 million 25 years ago is about $2 billion now. And they've poured God knows how much more money into that program since then. And it is, without a doubt, it's 100% climate and weather manipulation, with the intent being to one day be able to control the weather. I believe they intend to weaponize the weather. I mean, even when the government comes out and talks about the HAARP program, which is very rare, they admit what they're doing to an extent. In other words, they've got 180 high-powered antennas out in the middle of nowhere, Alaska, and they're all beaming these ultra-high frequency waves into the ionosphere. And I don't want to turn this into a science lesson or Mr. Wizard class, but everyone's heard of the atmosphere. Well, the ionosphere is above the atmosphere and the stratosphere. It's way up. And the ionosphere is what controls the jet stream. And the jet stream is what controls weather patterns. Well, if you can manipulate the jet stream, then you can manipulate weather patterns. You could, in theory, steer or guide big storms, hurricanes. You can cause tsunamis in certain parts of the earth, depending on where you aim these antennas and which way you bend the jet stream, or which way you manipulate the ionosphere, which would in turn bend the jet stream. And there's other things too that can't be disputed. The magnetic poles of the earth are changing, and this isn't happening by accident. This is all a result of these different programs, primarily HAARP. The core of the earth is heating, all sorts of different things. Why is the military running the HAARP program if it has no military purpose at all? Like the EPA, if it's just an environmental study, then why isn't the EPA program to invent the hydrogen bomb back in the 40s? The military did, and the military is running the HAARP program. So this is 100% about weather control, weather manipulation, climate manipulation.
And it's no coincidence that we started the HAARP program, and I think it was late 92, early 93. We did it right after the big California drought that went from the late 80s to the early 90s, which a lot of people think has to do with what they call the Russian woodpecker, which is people believe from 1976 to probably about 87 that Russia was doing what we're doing with the HAARP program, and we got a lot of weird radio frequencies, and your telephones will be blocked out and stuff like that, and you would hear like a woodpecker tapping, and it went on for 10 years, and then scientists that I've heard talk about it, they say it had direct correlation with the California drought. So I believe America seen what Russia was doing and hopped right on it. I think it's no coincidence that right when the California drought was happening, we start our own HAARP program, or we start our own program like that.
Right, and you mentioned Russia, and there's 5 or 6 of these giant antenna fields in different parts of the world, and they're all doing the same thing. And now, this is getting in a little bit deeper here, but if you want to go down the road of the New World Order, the One World Order, this sort of thing, all these countries, we have our differences with Russia, we have our differences with China, all these different countries here. But when you look at the One World Order or the New World Order that's coming, these people are above whatever differences we have from country to country. The goal, all these things are tied in. It's not a coincidence that, like you said, it's not a coincidence that Russia did this, California had a drought, and the U.S. jumps right in. These things aren't coincidences. I mean, you can pass them off as coincidence if you want, but the bottom line is, the military, they can start out with good intentions, and that may have been how HAARP started. Oh, we can do this, and we can try to prevent any further drought. But just like anything else, once the military starts doing something, they're not going to stop. And once they figured out, not only can we use the HAARP program to prevent future droughts, we can use the HAARP program to deflect incoming missiles. We can use the HAARP program to steer hurricanes or create hurricanes, cause tsunamis, typhoons. This is what keeps the military in business. What you think is science fiction or fantasy, in reality, is being studied and created in a military base somewhere near you. This is what they do.
And I do know that, to somebody out there that isn't familiar with the HAARP program, it kind of sounds a little far-fetched, but controlling the weather has been an idea for over 100 years. I mean, you can go all the way back to Nikolai Tesla. I always fuck up his name. But you could go back to, the famous scientist who started the transformer coils. Everybody went to science class and seen that. Well, it goes back. He had the idea. He said that if you put low frequency waves into the atmosphere, the ionosphere, that it would change the jet stream. And that was an idea that was all the way into the 60s until President Kennedy went to the UN and actually said that it was a goal of his to control the weather. So this is an idea that's not new. It's something that they've definitely thought about for over 100 years, and now, obviously, with the turn of the century, we got the technology to really amp it up.
Yeah, and if you're one of these people that just refuses to believe that the United States government or the United States military or whoever, that it's just impossible for them to do anything underhanded or do anything below board, or that if you take everything they tell you at face value, well, then you're one of the government's favorite people. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, there are instance after instance throughout United States history of the United States government lying right to the American people's face. It's happened over and over and over again. If you're one of these people that hears one of these conversations about HAARP or whatever else, and you immediately dismiss it because, there's just no way the United States government could get involved in something like that, well, then, there's little to no help for someone like you. You have to be able to open your mind to the possibility that while the government does a lot of good things for you, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that some of the things that they're doing are underhanded or wrong, or however you want to characterize it. And the ability to control the weather, to weaponize the weather, if you don't think that's something the United States military is currently seeking the ability to do, if they don't already have the ability, then you're more out of your mind than I am.
Yeah, exactly. And for anybody that thinks it's crazy, listen, I was there. I remember when I heard stuff about this, and I just passed it off. It's just like common sense. You can't go from, if you're in math class, you can't go from addition all the way to division. There's steps to it. So obviously somebody will hear something like this and obviously blow it off. But once you really start researching other things the government does, then you would realize that there is nothing you can write off. You can't overlook anything.
Right. You're talking about the same United States government who looked the entire world in the eye and said, there's weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. That's why we have to go there. I mean, and that's just one example. And we could do a whole show on 9/11 and the ramifications. I could do 6 months worth of shows on that. But there's just example after example of times the United States has lied for its own gain and benefit. And, you know, if you believe the public affairs officer for HAARP, who comes out and holds a press conference once a year to tell people that all they're doing is studying the atmosphere, well, like I said, you're one of the government's favorite people, and, you know, sheep get led to slaughter.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's exactly what they want you to do. They want you to turn on the news. They want you to hear exactly what Fox News or CNN or whoever's reporting the news. They want you to just hear what they say and take it as fact instead of actually thinking your own thoughts and trying to form your own opinion. And that's a whole other show we could do. But that's pretty much what that is.
Yeah. I forget the exact quote, and I forget who said it. I'll probably get this totally wrong, but there's a quote that basically says the technology invented by man and the overwhelming majority of mankind's ignorance of that technology will be the downfall of mankind. In other words, everybody, you know, you love your computer, you love your cell phone, you love your microwave, you love all these things. You have no idea how they work. You know, you're taking everyone's word at face value, but the vast majority of people are just ignorant. And ignorant is not. I'm not using the word ignorant as a put down. I'm using the word ignorant in the literal sense of the word, meaning you just don't know any better. And unless you take it upon yourself to educate yourself, then you're not going to know any better. Because, like you said, you can't watch Fox News or CNN or read the New York Times an hour a week and think you know what's going on. That's just not the way it works anymore. You've got to you do your own homework. You've got to be able to think for yourself. You've got to be able to think outside the box, and you have to be able to look yourself in the mirror and understand that your government has the ability and the willingness to lie to you if they think it's in their best interest to do that. They've done it time and time again. It's going to continue. It's never going to stop from now till the end of time. And, I mean, that's just the way it is.
I mean, my best example of this is we all got friends and we all got best friends and stuff like that. If your best friend could lie to you, your government could lie to you. Like that's
I mean, the government.
That's the simplest way I can put it.
Yeah. I mean, the government. You know, we just could go on and on with example after example, and again, the government does a lot of good things, and you know, people misunderstand me all the time. I love America. I'm glad. You know, there's no other country I'd rather live in. I think America is the greatest country on the face of the earth, but that doesn't mean that America is 100% perfect and is incapable of doing anything wrong. There's a gray area. It's not one or the other. You know, I don't have to believe everything my government tells me, or else I hate America. There's a lot of room in between. There's a lot of gray area in between. You know, I don't take anything I hear at face value. If I question something, I look into it myself. I don't believe every crazy conspiracy theory I hear, but if there's a conspiracy theory that I don't believe, it's not just based on the fact that I say, well, our government wouldn't do that. Take 9/11 conspiracies.
Yep.
There's all kinds of conspiracies about 9/11 and what happened and who did it and what the government knew or didn't know, and, you know. But is it possible that the United States government had something to do with it? Of course it is. Of course it is.
Yes.
Do I believe that? I personally don't. And there's a lot of people on both sides of this fence here. Now, do I think is it possible they could have known about it ahead of time? Sure. Is it possible the CIA planned the whole thing? Yeah, all that's possible. I just personally, I don't believe that. I think it's somewhere in the middle. But there have been times, I don't just dismiss that out of hand. Of course I think it's possible. You can look, Operation Northwood, you can look it up, but when Kennedy was in office, there was a plan to bomb Miami, a United States city, in order to start a war with Cuba. The people in the United States did not want another war. This was 15 years after World War II. They didn't want another war. The government concocted this plan to bomb Miami, blame it on Cuba, thus giving the United States a reason to go to war with Cuba. Now, that's what a lot of people point to when they want to blame the United States for 9/11. And the United States doesn't have anybody to blame for that but itself. That's a problem that the United States created for itself when they, with this whole Operation Northwoods thing. Because once people found out that was something the United States was willing to do, now every time something happens, you see these false flag operations people coming out of the woodwork on YouTube and everywhere else. I mean, every time something happens now, you've got people standing up saying this is all a hoax. The United States did it. Everything from 9/11 to the school shooting at Sandy Hook to the Batman shooting at the theater in Colorado. I mean, every time something happens now, people are saying, remember Operation Northwoods? This could be the United States could have done this. And it's not beyond the realm of possibility. I mean, you have to realize that the government has been involved in things like this before. So, of course, it's possible for them to be involved again, whether it's 9/11 or whether it's weaponizing weather to use against its own people on behalf of the pharmaceutical companies, or whether it's to use against China at some point down the road. Whatever it is, you have to know that the possibility of these things exists. Once you accept for yourself that it's possible for these things to happen, then you can take a clear look at each example and decide for yourself whether you think any one particular circumstance or conspiracy or whatever is true or not true. But to just dismiss something out of hand, if you're one of those types of people who hears any type of conspiracy theory or whatever and just immediately says, no, there's no way, then I don't really know why you're even listening to a show like this. Then if you're listening to this show, you probably already know that there's a lot of things going on that the government doesn't want you to know about. But there are some people that just don't want to see it.
Yeah, people are stubborn in their ways. People grow up. It all goes down to if you ask me, it all comes down to the school system. The school system teaches you this answer is right because the book said it or the teacher said it. And as you grow older, you watch things on the news, and well, that has to be right because the person on the news said it. It's human nature. I understand that. Everybody's eyes have to be open at some point. They have to be open for them. I definitely wasn't one of these kids that grew up, reading Kennedy assassination books and stuff like that. No, I took for whatever they said in the history book. As I got older, I did a little research on some things. For me, it started at 9/11, and I'm kind of with you. I'm in the middle. I don't know. I would like to think that they didn't do it, but I'm it's still a possibility. But once it triggered into my head, like, wow, that is something that they could have did, then you start looking at everything in the world completely different.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's it. Once you understand that, okay, it's possible, that's something the government could possibly do, then you're exactly right. You start looking at everything totally different. Take 9/11 for example. Now, you have an entire group of people who honestly believe that no planes ever hit the World Trade Center, that no plane hit the Pentagon. Now, I'm not saying those people are wrong. I'm saying I don't personally believe that. I think planes did hit the World Trade Center. I think planes did hit the Pentagon. Now, that doesn't mean I'm right and Cattle Dog is wrong. But I have looked into these things. I've spent, I've watched all these 9/11 conspiracy documentaries, and on TV and on the internet and different places like that. I've done my own research and my own homework, and my own personal opinion is that planes did hit those buildings. Now, were they passenger planes or were they military planes? Was the building laced with explosives beforehand? What about building number 7, the one next door? There are other issues you can look at outside of did a plane hit or did a plane not hit. But I personally do believe the planes hit. I saw the second one hit on live TV. So there's no way that could have gone back and been edited later. I was sitting in my mom's living room after the first building had been hit, and it was on every channel. I was watching live when the second plane hit. All those people that were on those planes, all their family members have come out. Yes, he was on, they were on the plane, they're gone. I mean, it seems like a lot of people to just disappear. I'm not saying it couldn't have happened. It's just my personal opinion is that the planes did hit the buildings. Now, did the U.S. know? Did Bush know? Well, first of all, if the U.S. knew, I don't think George W. Bush knew. They kept him in the dark the entire 8 years he was in office. He was, I don't even think they let him decide what he wanted to eat for breakfast every day. I think everybody knows everybody is pretty well aware of who ran the country during those 8 years, and it was Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, and the United States military. And Bush was just there to get the speeches and things like that, which he couldn't even really do that. But yeah, I mean, when we start looking back through history at some of the things that the United States admits to 20, 40 years down the road, they admit to some of these things they did back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. You have to start looking at modern-day situations a little bit differently. I mean, they gave their own military troops syphilis, for God's sake. I mean, yep. And they don't even deny it. They barely apologize for it. So to say, well, they wouldn't, and this is one of the reasons I stay on this flu vaccine thing so hard, because you line up at Walgreens or whatever, and you're letting them stick it in your arm. And believe me, if the government could make it mandatory for everybody to get a flu shot, they would. They would. They would love to do that, because then they could put whatever they wanted in that shot, and you'd have no choice but to take it. And again, people are going to say, well, that's just crazy. The flu shot is just what they say it is, the flu shot. Well, maybe it is. Or maybe it's syphilis, or God knows what. Now, they've done it before. Who's to say they won't do it again?
Exactly. I mean,
it doesn't make you a lunatic or a maniac to just ask some of these basic questions. The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. Well, what has the United States government done in the past? Well, they've poisoned their own people. They've killed their own people. LSD experiments. Yep. They injected syphilis into an entire troop in the military. They made plans to bomb a major American city in order to start a war with Cuba. They've done all these things. They don't deny these things. They admit.
Yes, they don't even
right now. Later,
they have admitted.
Yeah. Now, in the '60s, when they were coming up with this plan to bomb Miami, they don't come out and tell you that's what they're doing. You find out these things much, much later down the road, and that's where these 9/11, these truthers or whatever that they're called, that's what they point to. When people tell them they're crazy or that they don't know what they're talking about, they just sit back and say, well, wait till 2050. They'll come out and they'll admit all this stuff then, because that's been the routine that they've done before.
Yeah, they just released those papers on Pearl Harbor. What was that, like 5, 6, 7 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, when the people that are in charge of keeping secrets are also the people that are in charge of making up the laws and the rules of when those secrets can be released, well, then, this is what you're going to get. I mean, all they have to do is stamp something classified, and they don't have to tell you shit. And that's all they have to do. It's that easy. It's not always some grand scheme or conspiracy. I mean, it can be as simple as, one guy or one girl going, well, we don't need this getting out. Stamp classified is locked away in a drawer somewhere for 50 years. And by the time it's released, either no one cares or people have moved on or whatever the case may be. But again, you just have to be honest with yourself. And when it comes to questions like HAARP, like chemtrails, the first question you have to ask is it possible? And in almost every question you could possibly ask yourself, as far as is it possible goes, the answer is going to be yes, it's possible. So then you have to dive in, do your research, read things from both sides of the argument, and then you just make up your mind. And like I said, it's not going to be my job on this show to tell somebody that their opinion or their theory or whatever is wrong. I will tell you whether or not I agree. But if I don't agree, it won't be because, I don't think the government would do that. You'll never hear me say that. There's nothing you could tell me about the United States government where I would say there's no way they'd do that.
Yeah, I can't think of anything myself.
Of course they would. But anyway, so yeah, climate change. This is sort of just the most basic, I guess, question as it relates to weather. But the two questions that I'm interested in having answered, is the climate changing? Because people can't even agree on that. Is the climate changing? And if it is it man-made change, or is it just the course of Mother Nature? In other words, we had an ice age 1 billion years ago, so eventually we'll have another ice age, and then the planet will heat up and it'll thaw, and we're in a heating phase now. Those are the two questions I have for people to start out any debate on weather. As for me, I do believe the climate is changing. I believe the scientists, I'm going to take the scientist's word as far as the climate changing before I'm going to take the word of a bunch of right-wing religious lunatics who think that the earth is 4,000 years old. Noah lived to be 800 years old. These people, I'm not putting down anyone of religion or anyone of faith, but when it comes to a scientific matter, I'm going to take the word of scientists over the word of a group of people, who think the earth is only 4,000 years old. So yeah, I think the climate is changing, and I believe it's man-made. Forget about the whole government control and manipulation. I do believe that the carbon emissions and overpopulation and the industrial age and things like that, I do believe that those things have played a role in heating up the Earth's atmosphere and things like that. Now, I'm not a scientist, so I'm not here to, I'm not one of these people who tries to, scare people. Oh, the Earth's gonna implode in 5 years if we don't switch to natural gas. I'm not all about that. But I think from what I've seen and the homework I've done, it does appear to me that the Earth's climate is changing. And based on the evidence and the facts that I've looked at, I have to attribute that, at least in part, to humans.
No, definitely. I have to credit that to humans too. I mean, like you said, it's scientifically proven that these little low frequency waves that they're throwing out there into the atmosphere and the ionosphere, it's scientifically proven that it pretty much, the jet stream just moves all these billions of gallons of water that's in the atmosphere. And when you do that, because I probably have the directions wrong, but I'm pretty sure the jet stream goes from west to east. And when you do that, it changes it and it makes it go east to west. So when you have that creates a whole bunch of climate change, and you can pretty much, I don't want to say you can make your own weather, but it definitely alters it a great deal.
Yeah. I don't keep track of the temperature every day. I couldn't tell you what's today, January 29th. I couldn't. Okay, it's 45 degrees here. I couldn't tell you if that's hot or cold compared to January 29th 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And really, if you're trying to disprove climate change by saying, well, it's warmer today than it was on this day last year, you're really looking at it wrong. Climate change, you have to look at it over an extended period of time. You can't look at it year to year. Just because it's colder today than it was last year on this same date, that doesn't disprove climate change. You have to look at it over an extended period of time, over decades. And when you do that, there's just no denying that the polar ice caps are melting faster than they've ever melted before in recorded history. 2014 was the warmest year on record in the history of planet Earth since they've been recording these things. And every scientific review article that you read regarding the climate, every single scientist is in agreement that the climate is changing, and about 90% of those scientists are in agreement that it's at least partly due to mankind and humans, automobiles, factories, the industrial age, overpopulation, cutting down all these forests and trees. Cutting down one tree doesn't have an effect. Cutting down millions of trees over decades and decades does, according to scientists. And again, I'm going to take the scientist's word in a scientific matter. If I have a question about science, if I have a question about, fiction or great stories, then I'll ask a religious scholar his opinion on the matter. But, the right wing... Go ahead. The religious right wing in this country that just blindly denies climate change because the Bible told them so, I just don't buy it. And it's nothing against them as a group, but when it comes to something scientific like the climate, I'm more inclined to believe the scientific community than I am a group of people. And I'll say it 1,000 times, but I'm going to believe the scientific community in matters of science before I'm going to believe a group of people who think the Earth is only 4,000 years old, who think that Noah lived to be 800 years old. I just, their opinion on scientific matters doesn't matter to me.
Especially when I'll take what you said a step further. I'm going to take the scientist's word for it when it comes to science-related subjects over a group of people that 500-600 years ago were killing these scientists.
Yeah. Well, knowledge is the worst possible. Knowledge is a threat to a lot of different groups. Knowledge is a threat to the government. Knowledge is a threat to religious groups. We didn't really. When we talked about HAARP, there's a whole other theory on HAARP that doesn't even involve the weather, and it involves mind control. That the HAARP machines are actually intended for mind control, and forget that for now. We've talked enough about HAARP. But the oldest form of mind control is religion. Mind control is not a new idea. Mind control has been going on since the beginning of mankind, and that's what religion is. It's a way to control a large group of people. You get them to do what you want them to do, and to not do what you don't want them to do, based on a fear of hell. Exactly. And again, I'm not putting down. If you're a Christian, if you're Muslim, if you're Jewish, if you're a Hindu, whatever, I'm not putting any of that down. I'm just saying that when it comes to a scientific matter like the climate, we only have one Earth. There's nowhere else for us to go. Forget about what the movie Interstellar tells you. Forget about all these science fiction movies. As of right now, if something happens to Earth, there's nowhere else for us to go. There's not a Walmart on the moon, so no one's moving there. So the Earth is it. So, again, I'm not one of these people that thinks the Earth is going to implode in 5 years if we don't start using electric cars. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that denying climate change when every scientist on the face of the Earth is telling you that it's happening is kind of a dumb idea.
No, it's horrible. I mean, I understand where some of these people are coming from. I mean, they hear new ideas, and the first thing that they want to do is call somebody crazy, which, in my opinion, that's the worst thing you could ever call somebody is crazy, just because you don't understand them. But what I would just ask them is, all it takes is literally to open your mind specifically on this subject, climate control. It literally takes maybe an hour of research to make you go, oh wow.
Yeah.
That's literally all it takes. I mean, if you don't want to do the research, that's fine. You could keep watching The View or America's Got Talent or whatever you do, that's fine. But then I don't want to hear your opinion on it. Because if you tell me that's not why it's happening, well, then I need to hear a reason why. Just no, that's not how it works. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, I've had religious people tell me all the time, isn't it better to believe in God or whoever? Isn't it better to believe and be wrong than to not believe and be wrong? Well, I would ask them the same thing about climate change. You can take the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, whatever religious book you want to take. I don't see where recycling goes against anyone's religion, or or using an electric car goes against someone's religion, as opposed to a gasoline car. So if there's even a possibility that what we're doing as a race is destroying the only planet we have to live on, isn't it worth it to make a couple of small changes and suffer a little bit in the short run for the overall good of humanity and the planet, again, the only place we have to live? You there, Jay?
Hello?
Yeah, you there? Yeah, I hear you.
I'm sorry, I cut out there. I couldn't hear what you said. Something happened with my phone.
Okay. No, I was just saying, religious people, you hear them say a lot, it's better to believe in God and be wrong than to not believe and be wrong. And I would say the same thing about climate change. It's better, there's no harm in recycling. There's no harm in, us as a race moving away from fossil fuels. That's not against anyone's religion to do that. So if there's a possibility that doing those things could extend the life of the only planet that we have to live on, isn't that something that's worth looking into? Instead of just blindly turning your back and saying climate change is a lie, it's a hoax, it's not real.
I mean, yeah, that would be the common sense thing to do is at least, put the effort in to try to fix the situation. But, a lot of these people out here, they walk around with the mindset of, well, if I'm the only one doing it, I'm not changing nothing, so I'm not going to do it. And that's not a mindset to go by. You have to lead by example. You have to lead by example. If you see everybody in your neighborhood doesn't recycle, and everybody has these big diesel trucks, blah, 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 and you try to talk to them and tell them, and they don't do it, well, then lead by example. That's all you can really do. So when these people talk about climate change, you got this guy Al Gore's been saying it for 30 years, Yeah. And now it's really starting to come out where we really start to see the changes, and it's like, wow, this guy's been telling us for 30 years, and now it's finally starting to come to the light, and people are still going to act blind to it. You said it before. It's ignorance, not as a disrespectful way. They just really don't know any better.
Right.
I actually wanted to speak on some, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, Ray, you can't. No.
there's this group out of there, some resistance group and whatnot, and they felt the need to send letters over to the military and all, about what's going on and everything. And how do you all feel about that?
Not familiar with that.
Letters,
what did they do?
Letters to the military that said what?
About things that the government is doing and whatnot, and warning them and to tell them to confront their superiors and everything.
Yeah,
well, this is. I'll just say this. Asking the military to change something is the wrong person to ask. But go ahead.
Yeah, that's basically my point as well. And this is a debate that I have with a lot of people, not just about the military, but also about the police. The idea that I was against the Iraq War. That does not mean I'm anti-military. There's not a bigger supporter of the military than Uncle Lou. If I'm out to lunch, I live in a military town. There's a huge base here, Fort Gordon. It's the largest communications base in the world. All this spying and everything that's going on, it's being done right in my backyard out at Fort Gordon. But if I'm out to lunch and there's a guy in uniform behind me in line, I pay for his. I fully support the military. But it is possible to be against certain military policies and still be pro-military. Look, it's not the 19-year-old's fault that he has to go to Iraq. That when you join the military, joining the military is an option. There's no draft here. But where you go once you're in the military is not an option. You go where they send you, or they send you to jail. Desertion is a crime, punishable by jail. And I go round and around with people with police too. I'm not anti-cop. But I think every cop should be forced to wear a body camera. I think if a cop shoots and kills somebody, a special prosecutor should be brought in to investigate that, not his buddies at the DA office. That doesn't make me anti-cop. It makes me anti-murder. Exactly. As far as sending a letter to the military about your concerns, my question would be, who are you sending the letter to? An E2? You're wasting your time. When you talk about making changes to the military, you should be sending letters to your congressman, your senator. These are the people that are making these decisions. The military-industrial complex in this country is responsible for 90% of the wars that the United States gets involved in. I'm not saying 90% of the wars we shouldn't have gone to, but you have to understand, war makes money for people who are in the war business. Blackwater. Again, we could do a whole month's worth of shows just on Blackwater. But these private military contractors, they're constantly having to drum up a boogeyman so that we can pour more money into our military, so we can build another. We have 12 aircraft carriers. There's not a country in the world with more than one. We have 12. They're building fighter jets for the Navy that the Navy never even asked for, doesn't want, and doesn't need. And without a war, it's harder and harder and harder to get these appropriations bills and these military spending bills passed through Congress without a bad guy. You never heard of ISIS until we got ready to pull out of Iraq. You never heard of them. But all that money that we were spending in Iraq, that goes to ISIS. Yeah, you never heard of ISIS. But now they're the new boogeyman. This is when after 9/11, and we're getting way off topic here, but after 9/11, we first went into Afghanistan. There were 7 people on the kill list. 7. Well, we killed those people, no problem, with the exception of Osama bin Laden. But what happened? Then we went into Iraq. They issued a damn deck of cards to everybody in the military, and it had a face of everybody on the kill list on it. So then it was up to 52. The list ballooned into the thousands. They keep creating another monster, another bad guy, another Osama bin Laden, and it's never going to end.
Checks. They want those blank checks to pass all their little laws. It never will. It started a long time ago, and it's not ended anytime soon. Not ended anytime soon. Even when we're not in war, this country still needs some sort of a boogeyman. We could get into the war on drugs and keep going on for that. There's always something that needs to keep. I don't know why, but they feel America needs to be scared all the time.
Our military budget is higher than the next 10 countries combined. I mean, it's so much money. And then to make matters worse, you pay the troops $30,000 a year, which is nothing. And then you hire all these private contractors and pay them $130,000 a year. It just doesn't make any sense. Those people are getting paid by tax money. We have a caller?
Yeah, I think
yeah. Hey, what's up, man? This is Unk. I'm listening to your show,
up,
man. Bring it. Hey, I got a question for you. Did you hear about the story? I think I seen it on the news about a soldier that went AWOL, that he left his post to handle his business on his own, and then I believe he got captured, and there was 5 soldiers that went to look for him, and they died, and then I believe that the United States gave up prisoners to get this guy back, and now they're going to charge him with treason. The guy that went AWOL and left. Did you hear about that story?
Yeah, this is I can't remember his rank or his first name, but his last name is Bergdahl.
Mm.
And yeah, you're exactly right. He was in the Middle East. Decided he didn't want to be there anymore, and he basically just walked off. Got captured.
Was it that he walked off? Or did he leave just to handle his business on his own, to actually go out there by himself?
Well, according to the U.S. government, he just walked off to leave because, like you said, he's being charged with desertion now.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're trying to get him with treason because they think that he might have gave up info.
Yeah, and, whether he did or not, I'm not sure, but everything what you said is right. He one way or the other, he abandoned his post, whether it was for whatever reason, and was captured. The U.S. negotiated a hostage trade to get him back, which is supposedly a big no-no.
Okay, that's what I want to ask you too. Do you think it was right that the government gave up prisoners when there was 5 soldiers that I don't know if it was 5 soldiers that died looking for this guy?
Yeah, no, I don't think that's right. And what makes it even worse is that now this group ISIS or whatever, they've got these 2 Japanese guys, and Japan was thinking about negotiating for release of one of those prisoners, and the United States has to call Japan and tell them, no, don't do that. It's not right to negotiate when we just did it a year ago. So it's America saying do what we do, or do what we say, not what we do, and it's just not right. America has no business telling another country whether they can or can't negotiate a prisoner exchange. It's none of America's business. America thinking that they know what's best for everybody is what gets us in half these problems we're in now.
Exactly. And again, this is off topic. We could do a whole show on this, but in my opinion, that is America's job in the world. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to police everybody. That's what it looks like to me.
Well, that's what we do. I don't think that's what we should do, but that is exactly what we do.
Right. I'm not saying that's what we should do. I'm saying, again, this is getting into like the New World Order. But I think some different countries, like Rome is religion, and then England has the banks and stuff like that. And I think America is the police.
well, they definitely loved, they loved that job title because they never met a war they didn't want to get into. That's for sure. But the whole thing with prisoner exchange, my thing is this, especially if you're a journalist, you know the dangers if you go over there. So if you get caught, I don't personally think the United States should do prisoner swaps, prisoner exchanges. I don't. I mean,
see, I don't know the facts. I don't know if he left to go handle his business on his own, but if he left, forget the United States Army, then forget him. Like if he left on his own and just, that's on him. But I think it's different if he just went crazy, he got post-traumatic stress, and he says, I'm going to do this on my own, and then he went out there. But to give up prisoners for a guy that just basically dropped his flag, just went out and left.
We're giving up prisoners for a guy that we're going to put in jail. Where's the common sense in that?
Right. That's where you scratch your head and go, okay, the United States beats their chest all the time saying we do not negotiate with terrorists. Period. You hijack a plane, we're not negotiating with you. You grab 100 people hostage, we don't negotiate with you. You want to do a prisoner exchange, we don't negotiate with you. But the one time that you break that rule, you break the rule to rescue a guy just so you can turn around and throw him in Leavenworth for treason. The whole thing just doesn't make any sense.
How many prisoners did we give up?
I think it was 7.
7?
Oh, I thought it was 7 out of Guantanamo.
So 7 for one guy that just, man.
But I'm not sure about that number. No, it doesn't make no sense.
Even if it was 1. Yeah, if it was 1 or 7, it doesn't make sense. Well, why are you going to give up a prisoner just to bring this guy back and then charge him with a crime? I don't understand.
Right, and why are we now trying to tell Japan and Jordan that they can't do what we just did? Who are we? Those are sovereign countries. It's not. We don't dictate what they do. If they want to do a prisoner exchange, that's between those two countries. It's got nothing to do with us.
Yeah, love sticking our noses in other people's business.
Hey man, I love the show, man. I just called in to go ahead and drop that right there, but I'm gonna go ahead and hang up and listen.
All right, next week we're gonna talk about the Popo.
Okay, all right. I have a lot to say about that.
All right, buddy. All right, bye. All right, Jay, well, let's wrap it up. It's been over an hour now. So I think it was a good first show. I hope everybody was able to get a pretty good idea of what it is we want to do here. Like I said at the beginning, me and Jay will talk every week, and we'll decide on a certain topic that we want to focus on for the week. But again, at any time, if you want to call in, nothing's off limits. Feel free to change the subject on us. The more callers we can have, then the better of a show we'll have for sure, because nobody wants to sit around listening to me and Jay talk for an hour every week. So y'all be sure and call in. But thanks for listening. I'm gonna sign off here. Be sure and watch me on LouTube at Uncle Lou. Just type in Uncle Lou, you'll find me. And Jay, I'll let you take it out, buddy.
Yeah, this is Jay. Had fun with the first show. It being our first show, it's kind of hand in hand. We kind of bounced around different topics, but like Uncle Lou said, it gives you a good idea what this show is pretty much going to be about. So, until next week, we'll come back. Whatever Uncle Lou wants to talk about next week, we'll talk about next week. So, it's your boy Jay, and I'm out.
All right, good morning.